So instead of doing a recipe, I thought we'd do some basic tips, especially helpful for people getting started. So the biggest learning curve, if there's one at all, has to do with your stove more than the cooking system. So knowing where medium is key. So if you have an electric stove, this is a little bit of trial and error. If you want to be conservative, start lower than what you think is medium and see how it goes. Well, if you have a gas stove, you do have a very quick and easy way to test medium. So turn your dial, your knob to medium. Each burner will be different, so don't think once you've got one figured out, they're all the same. Let's say my fingers are the flame. Well, the flame's on medium according to the dial. Let's see if it truly is medium. Hold your other hand about this far above the space above the flame and see if you can keep it there without starting to get that really hot burning sensation at least 8 seconds. So I would count 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, or Mississippi. If you have to pull your hand away anytime before you get to the 8, whatever that medium says on your dial isn't true. So just adjust it accordingly until you know where that is. Again, test each burner because they are different. Whenever you're choosing a size of cookware, you want to make sure that the burner you choose is proportionate to the size. In other words, let's say this was a burner, you wouldn't put this small one on that big burner. There's going to be a lot more heat coming out of this one than the smaller burner. So that is number one. Now, number two is when you want to enjoy how much better the food comes out with one of the advantages, not the only, but one of them is cooking with little to no water. So you want to make sure you have a true medium, but you also want to make sure that your cookware is filled to at least 3/4 full. That's how you know which size to use. If you use too little bit of food, especially vegetables that are delicate, in an oversized piece of cookware, there's not going to be enough moisture to rise up to the lid underneath there and drip down in this lip to form a seal. You'll end up burning something well before any moisture collects. So make sure it's at least 3/4 full. Now, the way around that is if your recipe calls for any moisture of any kind, maybe some lemon juice, that will assist a lot. If you have vegetables that are either fresh or tend to be drier, even the frozen ones like green beans, broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, these types of vegetables, then you definitely want to probably use what we call the church pan. And if you remember, it's because it's holy. So if you put your vegetables in here, and you don't even have to worry about the 3/4 rule. You're going to set this on top of your 3/4 with a little bit of water, not enough that it comes into the church pan, but enough so you know it's not going to cook dry. And you'll put your vegetables in here, cover it up, do our medium click low, and it'll be perfectly rehydrated and locking in the nutrients. It's not going to steam it out. Steam is too hot for vitamins. This valve is calibrated to take that into account, much cooler. And that's why we have a 98.1% retention instead of 20% of antioxidants and nutrients when it comes to broccoli. So that is super easy. You'll never burn anything and you don't need to worry about how much is in there. So that's your best friend for just rehydrating and not worrying about that factor. And another thing you can do is a baby step, like turning wheels on a bike. You can throw a little ice cube in there if you just want to start conservative. It's not going to wash away the nutrients, but it's just an extra way to prevent burning. But again, know where medium is on your stove. So now some little tips to prevent burning. You do not want to have so much food in here that when you put the lid on, the valve is poking up at all. You also want to be sure that this has been cleaned well in case you cook something that's sticky like oatmeal if it, or rice got into there. Be sure it's nice and free to move, but have it nice and flush. The other thing is you want to make sure there is no food particles inside the lip rim or underneath the rim of your lid, because when you put the two together, it needs to be a nice flush seal. That way, the temperature when it reaches the right stage inside will escape only through the vapor valve and not out the sides. That's the other reason why you don't want the valve popping up, So if it is popping up, you can either twist the lid until it sits flush, or you can make a divot in the area so it sits flush. It has to have the freedom to go up and down. So that makes sense, right? Create a really good seal. The other thing for people who cook with gas is gas heat is instant, heat goes up. So the path of least resistance, we want to block that. So to make sure, once you put your recipe in and you cover it up, if you're on a gas stove, it's a really good tip to put a couple of drops of water right on top of the lip of your lid. Give it a full spin. This is what we do when we store our leftovers in the fridge, because remember, our material is the only one that's truly safe, does not chemically react. When you do that, you create a wonderful seal and nothing can escape out the sides, so it has to come through the valve. So that is very helpful. The other thing is you don't want to be a pot peeper. So pot peeper is someone who's just dying to know if it's really working and what's going on inside, and they kind of crack the lid open just to check. Well, every time you have a breach in the seal or take the lid off, what you're doing is letting air, heat, and moisture escape. Then what's going to happen is you're going to add cooking time. Your food's probably going to get burned on the bottom because you've lost very important moisture, and this has to recalibrate all over again. So a really good tip here is the 1-2 ouch test. So let's say you've had something on, you're pretty sure it's on medium, and you're sure it's 3/4 full, and the lips were clear, so you've got a good seal. You did your water seal that we talked about, but you're just dying to know if it's doing okay inside. Instead of opening it up and breaking the seal that you're trying to create, tap the lid. So, this is on the stove and you're tapping it. And we call it the 1-2 ouch test because you're like testing. Ooh, is there some heat there? Now, if it's like just warm, it's not time yet. That's why it's not clicking. But if you tap it, it's like, ooh, that's got some little smart there. There's some heat going on there. And what we recommend you do is spin the lid a couple times. And usually what will happen is maybe you got there just a little early, or it could be that the food didn't have a whole lot of moisture on itself. So there was enough to get up there, but not enough to let gravity pull it out and down into this lid to activate the vapor valve. So when you spin it, if the temperature's right inside, and ours is about 185 to 188, then spinning it centrifugally forces the moisture that is there out and down. And when it reads that temperature inside, it'll activate the vapor valve, and then you turn it down. Those are your basic tips on how not to burn. And again, know your oven. One tip is if you have a gas stove that is really hot, you can save yourself money on your gas bill. There is a valve you should be able to access somewhere in your cabinets near your stove, hopefully. And if you turn it down a little bit, I guess to the right, I'm guessing, but ask someone who knows for sure, it will cut back on the amount of BTUs of gas that your stove is putting out, which is just wasting your money, and it's taking away the wonderful control you ought to be able to enjoy with your stove. So if you do that, not only will it give you control, but you're going to save money. Now if you have an electric, you can't do that. And if you don't want to do that, no matter what stove you have, a very helpful tool is a diffuser. It might be called a deflector. You can get them at hardware stores such as Elliott's, but it's basically a metal disc with a handle, and you simply place it above your burner but below your cookware, and it buffers the intensity of the heat, and it really is wonderful. Our customers who are out in the country and have only propane gas, which burns much hotter than natural gas, it's a must-have. It's absolutely wonderful. So if you get stuck between the two, another thing, because this heats up so uniformly across the bottom of the sides, you do not have to be dead center. You can, if it just won't stop clicking and you're on the lowest setting until you get the gas figured out or the diffuser or whatever, you can slide it off the center, as far as it needs to get that low in place and create the semi-vacuum. The heat is still continuously going across and over the opposite sides, even though it's off center. So that's a really helpful tip too. And of course, as always, we live to serve. Call us after hours. Our phone at the office goes to one of our managers to answer your questions when you need it. There's no such thing as too many calls or too silly of a question, we're here to hold your hand because we want you soaring, because you are our best source of referrals. And thank you, and let us know how things are going, and we want to see you at our next class next time.